New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. US President Biden addresses the US citizens and he says that he's passing on the torch to a younger generation. He calls for US Supreme Court reforms. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu addresses US Congress, appreciates America's support and says that the US and Israel must stand together against barbarism. ASEAN discusses geostrategic and geo-economic shifts at meeting in Laos. India's External Affairs Minister to attend the meetings. India successfully flight tests Phase 2 of the Ballistic Missile Defense System. It's tracked by electro-optical, radar and telemetry stations at various locations. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh congratulates DRDO. Olympic torch passes several landmarks, highlighting Parisian heritage. The greatest sporting extravaganza, the Summer Olympics, begins on Friday. The US President Joe Biden explained his abrupt departure from the 2024 presidential race in a televised national address from the White House. His address comes after weeks of pressure from Democrats for him to step aside since his June 27 debate against Trump. At one point, he was adamant and he had said that only the Lord Almighty could convince him to go. However, with his departure, US politics has taken on a new form, driven by women as the progressives' new torchbearers.
US President Joe Biden cited his concerns about the future of US democracy and said that he was stepping aside to allow a new generation to take over.
I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
In his 11-minute speech, Biden again alluded to the threat that he believes Donald Trump poses to America's democracy and said that defense of democracy is more important than any other title.
I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that. And I never have.
In a signal perhaps to the Democrats, Biden once again signaled his unwavering support for Vice President Kamala Harris.
In just a few months, the American people will choose the course of America's future. I made my choice. I've made my views known. I would like to thank our great Vice President Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country.
Countering the Republican narrative that he is going to be a lame duck president for the remainder of his term, Biden listed out his priorities, including defending the right to vote and right to choose.
We'll keep rallying a coalition of proud nations to stop Putin from taking over Ukraine and doing more damage. We'll keep NATO stronger, and I'll make it more powerful and more united than any time in all of our history. I'll keep doing the same for our allies in the Pacific. You know, when I came to office, the conventional wisdom was that China would inevitably surpass the United States. That's not the case anymore. And I'm going to keep working to end the war in Gaza, bring home all the hostages, and bring peace and security to the Middle East and end this war. We're also working around the clock to bring home Americans being unjustly detained all around the world.
Biden will conclude his White House tenure on January 20th, 2025, as the oldest American president when he will have already turned 82. DD India.
The former U.S. president and the Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump launched a volley of attacks against the country's vice president and his new Democratic rival Kamala Harris. Addressing a rally in North Carolina, Trump called Kamala Harris as the ultra-liberal driving force who should be held responsible for Biden's policies on immigration. Saying that the Democratic Party bosses were behind Biden's decision to step down, Trump accused Harris of covering up Biden's mental health.
Kamala Harris gets in, she would be the most radical far-left extremist ever to occupy the White House times 10. There's never been a lunatic like this in the White House, and we've had some bad ones. So now they bring in this one who's worse than him. She's worse than him, because he's a fake liberal. You know, he wasn't that liberal. He was fake. She's a real liberal. She really is a real liberal. She's much worse than him.
The U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris vowed to restore what she describes as reproductive freedoms overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court if elected president. Addressing the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Inc.'s convention in the Indiana Convention Center, Harris criticized the opposition's alleged Project 25 agenda, and she said that we must, I'm quoting her, we must recognize that there are those who are trying to take us backwards.
You know, when he was president, Donald Trump, former president, handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court because he intended for them to overturn Roe v. Wade. The United States Supreme Court, previously the court of Thurgood and RBG. And as he intended, they did. Well, let me tell you something. When I am president of the United States, and when Congress passes a law to restore those freedoms, I will sign it into law.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington calling on the U.S. to continue its support to his country. He spoke to a joint session of the U.S. Congress on Wednesday ahead of talks planned with the U.S. President Joe Biden. However, there were protesters who gathered outside the Capitol to demonstrate against Netanyahu. Here's Caroline Malone's report.
Well, Free Palestine was one of the strongest messages that protesters were calling for in their big demonstrations that were happening just outside the US Capitol on Wednesday. Different groups gathering in different parts of the US Capitol, some at the main train station, some directly next to where Congress was gathering for a joint session to listen to the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, giving his speech at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on Wednesday. In that speech, he called for bipartisan support from the US to Israel to try and make sure that the US continues, both in word and militarily, to supply what Israel feels that it needs in its fight against Hamas.
We meet today at a crossroads of history. Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization. It's a clash between those who glorify death and those who sanctify life. For the forces of civilization to triumph, America and Israel must stand together. Because when we stand together, something very simple happens. We win, they lose.
But increasingly, though, we are seeing these types of protests around the country, and people have traveled to Washington from different parts of the US for these protests, from the West Coast, from Michigan, from other states. We've seen it in primaries in which people decided to vote basically against Biden's policy of supporting Israel over the last few months, and increasingly concern over the number of civilians who are being killed in Gaza, the death toll on Palestinians, the impact on the education, on the health service, on everyone that is continuing to live there under very difficult conditions. Overall, though, the message from Netanyahu was that it's important for the US to continue to support Israel because Israel is the strongest ally that the US has in the Middle East, and that it's important to keep a united front against enemies. He didn't specify which enemies, but we can imagine, there's a lot of different groups that are not in favor with Israel right now, not just Hamas, but affiliated groups, Hezbollah, and of course Iran is a big concern as well. Caroline Malone reporting from Washington for DD India.
The US President Joe Biden will host the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on Thursday to discuss progress towards a ceasefire in Gaza and a hostage release. Vice President Harris is also scheduled to hold a separate meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. These high-level talks are part of ongoing diplomatic efforts to end the Gaza conflict. Israeli forces have recovered the bodies of 5 hostages killed by Hamas in that October 7 attack and held in Gaza since these were the hostages held in Gaza since October 7. The first body was of Maya Goren, who's a 56-year-old kindergarten teacher killed during the attack on her kibbutz community. The other 4 hostages were 2 reserve soldiers and 2 conscript soldiers killed in combat during the October 7 attack. Their bodies were retrieved from the area of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, where Israeli forces launched new raids this week. And Sarah Coates now joins us from Tel Aviv with more on these stories. Sarah, what are the reactions in Tel Aviv to Prime Minister Netanyahu's address to the US Congress?
Hello there, Mark. Mixed reactions here in Israel in the wake of that congressional speech by Benjamin Netanyahu. We've heard from the Foreign Minister, Israel Katz. He called it moving and important. Similar sentiment from the Finance Minister, Bezalel Smotrich. He said that the Jewish and Israeli hearts of all of us are proud and filled with pride by the Prime Minister, who represents us with sharp and clear words. He is, though, being slammed by the opposition leader, Yair Lapid, who posted on X shortly after that address. He said, disgrace, an hour of talking without saying a single sentence, there will be a hostage deal. And this is also what we've been hearing from the family members, the loved ones of these hostages still being held in the Gaza Strip. They held a rally at the same time that Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking in Congress, slamming the Prime Minister for what is perceived to be his inability to release these remaining captives being held in the Strip. So certainly mixed reactions here in Israel, and really the sentiment on the Israeli street is that more should have been spoken about these people being held in Gaza, Mark.
Sarah, also, what's expected from his meetings with Biden, Harris and Trump?
Certainly very high-level meetings for Netanyahu over the coming days. He is expected to meet the US President Joe Biden a little later today. And we are hearing that the main topic of discussion there will be the ceasefire and hostage talks that are expected to pick up substantially over the next couple of days. Now, Netanyahu is coming under increasing pressure. He actually delayed the departure of this Israeli negotiating team. They were meant to leave yesterday to restart these talks, but his aides have come out to say that he wanted to meet US President Biden before actually sending this delegation. Now, according to a US official, these talks are in the closing stages, with a number of gaps, though, remaining. And from what we understand, these are that Hamas needs to still provide a list of these hostages that would be freed over a certain period of time. And Hamas also needs to provide a list of these prisoners, Palestinian prisoners being held in Israeli jails, that it wants freed. Now, he's also expected to meet a little later today also with Kamala Harris, with one of her aides saying that she will use a meeting with Netanyahu to convey her view that it's time for the war to end, in which Israel is secure, all hostages are released, and the suffering in Gaza ends. Now, you also mentioned about former US President Donald Trump. He will meet with him at Mar-a-Lago tomorrow, and he'll be really looking to shore up Trump's support once again and really kind of reset this relationship.
Final question, Sarah. Can you tell us more about the 5 hostages' bodies? And the fear that a third of those in captivity have been declared dead in absentia.
Certainly, this announcement was made over yesterday and early this morning that 5 bodies of people that were being held in the Gaza Strip have been retrieved during this Israeli operation in that southern city of Han Yunis. This is 1 woman and 4 men, and there is a lot of fear here, of course, among the loved ones of these captives, that more people may actually be found dead in the Gaza Strip as this Israeli military operation continues. Now, according to the IDF, there are 111 remaining hostages being held in Gaza, with 39 bodies there being confirmed dead. So once again, it is very, very difficult for the family members of these loved ones. They are urging Benjamin Netanyahu to come to a deal and come to it now, really hoping that there aren't more announcements such as this, Mark.
Thanks a lot, Sarah Coates, for joining us from Tel Aviv. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Ukraine says it destroys 25 of 38 drones in a Russian overnight attack on Kiev. 500 more filth-filled balloons sent into South Korea's airspace in the last 24 hours. Taiwan conducts live fire drills during annual war games in northern Matsu Islands.
We simply throw things away when we're done using them, be it a cup, an old shirt, or a used battery. But we can do a lot better. Let's find out how.
I thought I can get a bunch of people together and we can just create this beautiful product while not being wasteful, while paying people correctly, while not throwing things into the garbage can.
Our goal is to recover 95% of our nickel, which is the most expensive, most valuable ore, including aluminum and copper, of course.
We are successfully managing waste in this small town with a limited number of people, resources, and market. If we can do that here, it would definitely be possible in larger towns that have many advantages over us.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, as the Russia-Ukraine conflict entered its 881st day, on Thursday, Ukrainian forces destroyed 25 Russian attack drones out of 38 that were launched overnight. Ukraine's Air Force chief said that Russia used 38 Shahed 131, 136 attack drones attacking Ukrainian infrastructure in several areas, including the south of the Odessa region and also the central Ukraine. So the Air Force chief has said that 3 other drones were lost after crossing the state border with Romania. The Romanian territory is just a few hundred meters, in fact, from the Ukrainian Danube port of Izmail in the Odessa region, which was attacked by drones for the second time in a row, second night in a row. Odessa governor said that 2 people were wounded when the drone debris hit a private house in Izmail. The Russian President Vladimir Putin met the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in Moscow. They discussed what the Russian leader described as an escalation in the Middle East. The meeting, took place late on Wednesday. It comes at a time when Russia, which saved Assad's government through its military intervention in 2015 during a civil war, could mediate to diffuse tensions between Syria and Turkey. The first meeting of the 2 leaders since March last year comes after the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan evoked the possibility of 3 leaders meeting to try and normalize ties between Ankara and Damascus. China and Russia organized joint air strategic patrols over the Bering Sea. This happened on Thursday. This is according to an annual military engagement plan. And China's defense ministry said it deepened strategic mutual trust and coordination between the two militaries and did not target any third parties, adding that it had nothing to do with the current international situation. Russia's state news agency also reported that Russian and Chinese military planes conducted joint patrols near the U.S. state of Alaska. Citing the Russian Defense Ministry, the planes did not violate the airspace of other countries, said the Russian agency. Taiwan on Wednesday conducted a live fire drill during their annual war games in northern Matsu Islands. This year's annual Hunkwon exercise went ahead with the mixed military company preparing and firing live ammunition. The exercise, which began on Monday, has been severely curtailed by the impact of Typhoon Gemi. Live fire drills take place on Taiwan's outlying islands. They include Kinmen, Matsu and Penghu, which sit nestled next to the Chinese coast. With them, Taiwan is apparently trying to demonstrate their self-defense capabilities and determination. China has been staging regular exercises around these islands for 4 years. North Korea has sent approximately 500 balloons filled with trash into South Korea's airspace within the last 24 hours. According to the officials in the south, the balloons have disrupted flights. They've caused a fire on a residential building's roof. In recent weeks, in fact, similar incidents have disrupted operations at South Korea's Incheon International Airport. The balloons are part of an ongoing propaganda campaign by Pyongyang against North Korean defectors and activists in the south. As of Thursday, 480 balloons containing mostly paper and plastic trash were reported to have landed in the country, with some found near Seoul's heavily guarded presidential office. Some more news from around the world. A marine tanker capsized in the Manila Bay, causing a large-scale oil spill. Of the 17 crew members, 16 were rescued. Search is on for the missing member, and it is still unclear whether the accident took place because of Typhoon Gemi or otherwise. Flights have slowly started resuming at Germany's Frankfurt airport after climate activist group Last Generation blocked the airport, causing temporary suspension of flights on Thursday. The airport administration asked passengers to check with their airlines before traveling to the airport. California's Park Fire has expanded overnight owing to dry weather and strong winds. The blaze has been barely controlled as firefighters continue struggling with more focus on preventing any new fire. The cause of the fire is unknown. Typhoon Gemi swept through northern Taiwan on Thursday, killing 2 people, triggering flood and it triggered floods and also the sinking of a freighter off the coast of Taiwan before barreling towards China. Gemi made landfall around Wednesday midnight on the northeastern coast of Taiwan. It's the strongest typhoon to have hit the island in 8 years and was packing gusts of up to 227 kilometers per hour before weakening. Around 500,000 households in Taiwan have suffered power cuts on Thursday. The typhoon is expected to bring more rain across Taiwan in its wake. Here's Chris Gilbert's report from Tokyo.
It took some time for Typhoon Gemi to make landfall in Taiwan. The island's mountain ranges acted as a buffer, bouncing the typhoon back off its southeastern coast into the ocean. The effects of this were to partially weaken the storm, but prolong its effects for those living in the area on the southeastern coast for hours. And when the storm did make landfall, it brought with it winds of 205 kilometers an hour, rainfall of more than 2 meters, and strong storm surges, which have created flooding in parts of the island, felled hundreds of trees, cut power temporarily to about 500,000 customers, 500,000 households, and also have seen schools and businesses closed for a second consecutive day. A freighter registered to Tanzania has been sunk reportedly off the coast of Taiwan, and there has also been further disruption to the annual Hankwan military exercises that Taiwan has been holding and were meant to finish on Friday but have been cancelled for the next 2 days. As the effects of this storm continue, there have been fatalities and injuries already, and the storm is expected to intensify as it heads over the warm waters of the Taiwan Strait. As it heads into mainland China, it is forecast to expand and become stronger, bringing yet more stormy weather, more rainfall, more deluges to a country which has already experienced so much rainfall and flooding in recent weeks. Chris Gilbert in Tokyo, reporting for DD India.
Well, different parts of India are in the grip of torrential downpours in varying intensity, leading to waterlogging in several low-lying areas and traffic disruptions. In the national capital of Delhi, heavy rains in some parts caused waterlogging. This brought traffic to a standstill at some places. The India Meteorological Department has predicted heavy to moderate rains for the NCR, simultaneously issuing a yellow alert for the region. India's financial capital, Mumbai, is under continuous spells of rain, with waterlogging causing train delays accompanied by gusty winds uprooting trees. Thane has received over 120 millimeters of downpour. Academic institutions have been closed in Thane and neighboring districts. A similar situation in Pune has prompted authorities to issue warnings for people living near water bodies. The India Meteorological Department has issued a red alert for Maharashtra with predictions of more heavy rainfall. And Shishir Shelar is now joining us from Mumbai with more on the story. Well, Shishir, what is being done, in fact, to enhance drainage capacity? I mean, the rains are continuing to come. They've always had some problem in Mumbai. Tell us a little bit about the drainage capacity.
Well, absolutely, Mark. But currently, if you look at the situation in Maharashtra, we have seen that the maximum rainfall took place in Pune. What we got, the news we got, there's nearly 550 millimeter of rainfall. Some parts of Pune has witnessed in the last 24 hours, and that's the reason situation is quite grim in the Pune district. And not just Pune, let me tell you that the Konkan region, including the Raigad district, is also witnessing quite a heavy to moderate rainfall. In the western Maharashtra also, the Kolhapur district has also received a quite heavy rainfall since yesterday night, and that's the reason some of the roads have been submerged. Well, we talk particularly about Pune because the news we're getting since morning that most of the part of the Pune has submerged. Since last couple of days, Pune is receiving quite a heavy rainfall, and that's the reason the catchment areas and the reservoirs water level has increased into these areas. As a result, the water has been discharged to some of the rivers adjoining to Pune city, and that's the reason now the water level of these levels has increased, resulting the low-lying areas actually submerged completely in Pune particularly. And keeping this situation in the mind, even the state authorities have swung into action. The state government have alerted the NDRF team and the SDRF team to Pune. At the same time, we have seen that the local administration is also keeping a very close tab on some of the pockets of the Pune where the people have been trapped because as a complete the road have been submerged, and that's the reason the boats have been sent for the people to evacuate from all these places. Well, the Chief Minister just few minutes back have reviewed all the situation and have said that there's no need to panic here, as already authorities swung into action. Yes. And the people have been deployed for the work and to rescue people at various locations.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Shishir Shelar, for joining us from Mumbai with that update. It's still to come here on DD India News Hour. India and the UK review bilateral relationship and roadmap 2030 as the British Foreign Secretary concludes his India visit. We look at why the Phase 2 ballistic missile defense system test is a proud moment for India. The 25th Kargil Vijay Diwas on the 26th of July. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Kargil.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. The US President Joe Biden addresses US citizens, says he's passing on the torch to a younger generation, calls for US Supreme Court reforms. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu addresses the US Congress, appreciates America's support, says US and Israel must stand together against barbarism. ASEAN discusses geostrategic and geoeconomic shifts at a meeting in Laos. India's External Affairs Minister to attend these meetings. The 57th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting kicked off today with the Laos Foreign Minister delivering the opening remarks under the theme of ASEAN enhancing connectivity and resilience. India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar is in Vientiane. This is to take part in the ASEAN mechanism meetings. In a social media post, the minister said that he was looking forward to further deepening India's ties with ASEAN as, and I'm quoting him, we mark a decade of Act East policy. The meeting of the foreign ministers from the ASEAN will be followed by two summits in Vientiane, the Laos PDR, between the 25th of July and this is to the 27th of July. These meetings are set to address key global issues and will be attended by officials from the United States, the European Union, Japan, China, Russia, and other countries. As the world faces renewed challenges on security and economic development, India and the UK launched a technology security initiative. The TSI is part of the ambitious agenda set out in the India-UK Roadmap 2030. The launch took place in Delhi on Wednesday when the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy was visiting India. He is the first British minister of the new Labour government led by Keir Starmer to visit India. He was on a day's visit to Delhi before leaving for the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting in Laos PDR.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held delegation-level meeting with visiting UK Foreign Secretary Lammy. Technology Security Initiative will take on boosting economic growth, telecom security, AI, critical minerals, semiconductors, quantum, biotech and advanced materials. Both leaders reviewed the bilateral relationship and Roadmap 2030 agreed during India-UK Virtual Summit in 2021.
We are both countries which have a big global presence in different ways. So I think it's also important that India and the UK work together on global issues.
The UK Foreign Secretary also met with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Doval will coordinate Technology Security Initiative with his British counterpart for collaboration in critical and emerging technologies. The collaboration under TSI will involve government, private sector, academia and R&D institutions.
Our new government is committed to growth and there's much that we can do together. Very pleased today to launch the Tech and Security Initiative, an indication of the future opportunity on AI, on quantum, on biotech, on climate and carbon, on health, so many areas.
In the delegation-level talks, both countries also agreed to work closely on tackling climate change. Both leaders reviewed the progress made in the India-UK Free Trade Agreement negotiations and discussed cooperation on a gamut of issues, including migration and mobility partnership, Indo-Pacific. Akhilesh Saman's report for DD India.
The President of India, Draupadi Murmu, paid a visit to the Pranab Mukherjee Public Library located in the country's capital. President Murmu, a former teacher herself, interacted with the students of Class 9 of the Kendriya Vidyalaya, and she was curious to find out more about what the next generation thought about their prospects.
अभी का बच्चे बहुत टैलेंटेड होते हैं, बहुत चीज़ें उनसे सीखने को है, सीखने का है बहुत, क्योंकि ये बच्चे साइंस युग के बच्चे, कंप्यूटर युग के बच्चे, उसके एज के हिसाब से वो ज़्यादा बड़े हैं ज्ञान में। इसीलिए मैं आपसे कुछ चीज़ें जानना चाहती हूँ, सीखना चाहती हूँ। तो फिर बहुत दिनों से मैं सोच रही थी कि मैं आऊँ, आज मुझे थोड़ा वक्त मिला आपसे मिलने के लिए। मैं बहुत एक्साइटेड हूँ।
India's Defence Research and Development Organization successfully flight tested Phase 2 of the ballistic missile defense system. The target missile was launched from LC-4 Dharma on Wednesday, mimicking adversary ballistic missile, which was detected by the weapon system radars deployed on land and sea and activated by the AD interceptor system. The flight test fully met all the trial objectives, validating complete network-centric warfare weapon system consisting of long-range sensors, low-latency communication system and MCC and advanced interceptor missiles. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has complimented the DRDO for this successful test flight and also stated that it has once again demonstrated the ballistic missiles defence capability of the country. And Dr. Ajay Lele, defence expert, is joining us. He's with the Manohar Parrikar Institute of Defence Studies and Analysis. Dr. Lele, how much of a protective shield is this missile defence system?
I think this is a very interesting missile defence system which India is at it for quite some time now. In fact, if you look at India's missile defence program, it started way back in 1999. And subsequently, we have conducted Phase 1. And now we have completed Phase 2 missile defense system. This system also will be in future positioned on our battleships, which are also there. So there is a maritime component, a naval component to this missile defense system also. Particularly for a country like India, which has got both the adversaries, Pakistan and China, who are nuclear weapon states, to have a missile defense system is a very important thing. And from that angle, I think this is a very important step. But it is a process which is continuing. Will take some more time to fully operationalize this missile defense system. But yesterday's news was very good news about the success of the Phase 2 of this system.
Dr. Lele, so how is the system operated? Do they, are they operated from land and sea, from all various locations? That's what we hear. And how quickly can they sort of disarm enemy missiles?
You see, there are different types of this missile defense system. Yesterday, what we tested is an Indo-atmospheric missile defense system. There is a exo-atmospheric missile defense system also. Broadly speaking, all the missiles which are coming at an altitude of around 40 kilometers are addressed by the missile defense system by Indo-atmospheric. And for exo-atmospheric, the range is in the altitude of 50 kilometers to 180 kilometers. So what happens is that if an enemy nuclear missile is coming towards you, you have got a system of radars and other sensor systems. Some radars are based on land, some radars are based on your ship platforms in oceans. And these radars give an early warning system to your interceptor missile. If you see critically yesterday's missile test, the target missile was launched at a particular time, and within 4 minutes, we had responded to hit that target. That means the time between the two sorts of attacks as well as a response is very limited. And particularly for a country like India, where you're sharing borders with your adversaries. So the early warning, what we call, is very limited. And that is the very much a key element of these types of missile defense systems. What yesterday's test has proven that only 4 minutes of a warning also is sufficient enough for us to address any sort of a incoming nuclear or a potent missile system. Particularly as we started investing into these technologies, we first started investing into technologies to address the threats of IRBMs. So yesterday's test is actually related with your incoming ICBM missiles. That means a missile which can be fired from a distance of around 5,000 kilometers.
Dr. Lele, what does this achievement tell us about the capabilities of the Defence Research and Development Organization?
You see, what happens is that what we are seeing is only a test. That means some message was given and a target missile was fired first, and subsequently an interceptor missile was fired. But there are a lot amount of technologies which are inbuilt into it. And DRDO is developing various technologies, be it sensor technologies, whether they are optical sensors or some other category of sensors, and various other radar systems also. So we have got a swordfish radar also, which has been developed, which can give you signals almost around 1,500 kilometers earlier when the incoming threat is there. So it's not only a missile per se, there are a lot of other systems and a lot of other technologies which have been developed, which have been part and parcel of this entire test.
Dr. Ajay Lele, thank you very much for joining us and explaining this for us. Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting the Kargil Memorial. This is on the occasion of the 25th Kargil Vijay Diwas, taking place on the 26th of July. The Prime Minister will pay homage to the brave hearts who made the supreme sacrifice in the line of duty on Friday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also carry out the first blast of the Shikun La Tunnel project virtually. The Shikun La Tunnel project consists of a 4.1 kilometer long twin tube tunnel which will be constructed at an altitude of around 15,800 feet on the Nimmu-Padaun Darcha road. This is to provide all-weather connectivity to Leh. Once completed, it will be the highest tunnel in the world. Shikun La Tunnel will not only ensure swift and efficient movement of our armed forces and equipment, but also foster economic and social development of Ladakh. On July 26, India observes Vijay Diwas, or Victory Day. And this is to commemorate the silver jubilee, as we said, of the Kargil war victory. This is against Pakistan. It's a tribute to the bravery and courage of the Indian armed forces against all odds in very high altitudes. DD India correspondent Vishal Barristow is on the battlefront, and he's brought us this report.
Presenting the panoramic view of the Kargil war, this is Lamoshan. 25 years ago, 527 Indian soldiers laid down their lives to achieve the impossible against Pakistan.
This is Lamoshan Point, and behind me is the Tiger Hill, the tallest peak that you can see there. These mountains have been witness to that historic fight, which is also called Mother of All Battles. Today, we are celebrating the silver jubilee of that Kargil war. 26 July 1999 was the day when India defeated Pakistan, and it was a decisive victory. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is reaching Kargil to participate in that historic event.
Today, as India celebrates the victory, the sacrifice of the Indian soldiers is relived as the microlight plane of Indian Army passes by with Kargil Vijay Diwas flag. Every minute detail of the war is encrypted in this movie that is played before the families of the war heroes and the Indian Army, who watch with tears in their eyes. Fought for 2 months, the war finally ended on 26 July, but the memories are still fresh as Vishal Batra narrates the sacrifice of his brother, Captain Vikram Batra, who was awarded Paramveer Chakra, the highest military honor, posthumously.
The courage, the grit, determination shown by every young soldier, whether I talk of my own brother Captain Vikram Batra, Anuj Nayyar, Manoj Pandey, Vijan Thapar, I think the saga of the bravery of these valiant soldiers continues, and I think it's very, very inspirational to come here because what these young soldiers did at a very young age. It's very difficult to fathom because you realize it only when you actually come and see those mighty peaks. So it's always like coming back home, and somewhere I feel it's an invitation from Vikram to come and visit him. So that's the reason I'm here again.
Kargil war was fought under the most inhospitable conditions, with Pakistan Army sitting atop high peaks and watching every move of the Indian Army.
It was a responsibility that arose at that time, and with great satisfaction one can say that our boys, our young officers, the units, all those who were entrusted with the task managed to deliver with very, very high credible results. And that is a satisfaction one looks back upon that period.
Though Indian Army lost 527 brave soldiers, the historic victory has kept Pakistan quiet for 25 years now. Vishal Baristo for DD India.
Let's take a look at some other stories making news in India. The Defence Minister Rajnath Singh visited the embassy of Vietnam and he paid condolences and tributes of India to the people of Vietnam on the passing away of the Vietnamese General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong. This happened on the 19th of July. Trong had served as the 10th president of Vietnam. A Delhi court on Thursday extended the judicial custody of the Chief Minister of Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal, in the money laundering and corruption cases related to the alleged excise scam. The special judge, Kaveri Bhaveja, extended Kejriwal's custody in the money laundering case, being probed by the Enforcement Directorate till July 31. His judicial custody in the corruption case lodged by the CBI has been extended till August 8. An Indian delegation participated in a senior officials meeting to prepare for the fourth meeting of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. The National Security Chiefs in Myanmar's capital, Naypyidaw. India is the lead country for security sector cooperation in the BIMSTEC. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. In the Paris Olympics 2024, Indian archers take aim in archery ranking rounds at the Paris Olympics. And Paris is alive with Olympic enthusiasm.
We simply throw things away when we're done using them, be it a cup, an old shirt, or a used battery. But we can do a lot better. Let's find out how.
I thought I can get a bunch of people together and we can just create this beautiful product while not being wasteful, while paying people correctly, while not throwing things into the garbage can.
Our goal is to recover 95% of our nickel, which is the most expensive, most valuable ore, including aluminum and copper, of course.
We are successfully managing waste in this small town with a limited number of people, resources, and market. If we can do that here, it would definitely be possible in larger towns that have many advantages over us.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lin. Well, the Indian economy is estimated to touch 7% growth in 2024. Road infrastructure plays a pivotal role in this economic growth, with over 60% of the cargo transportation supported by road transport. One of the major challenges on road infrastructure is the safety, because over 1.5 lakh people, 150,000 people are killed, and over 500,000 people are injured because of road accidents. And does one ensure safety and sustainable mobility? Here's Anil Thomas's report.
India leads the world in emerging technologies in wide-ranging sectors like infrastructure, automotive and fintech. India also holds the top numbers in terms of road traffic crashes and fatalities. ASOCHAM organized the 8th Road Safety Conference to draw attention to the contrasting shades of the country.
सबसे ज़्यादा दुर्घटनाएं ये भी देश के अंदर हिल राज्यों के अंदर, जैसे नॉर्थ ईस्ट के अंदर है, उत्तराखंड के अंदर है, हिमाचल के अंदर है, अधिकतर घटनाएं इसके कारण भी होती हैं। अगर आपका अच्छा अवेयरनेस का कार्यक्रम है, बच्चों के साथ आप इसको स्कूलों के साथ भी आप जोड़ते हैं, BMW इंडिया फाउंडेशन के सहयोग से स्कूलों में भी आप कार्यक्रम चला रहे हैं अवेयरनेस के, मैं आपको बहुत बधाई देता हूं। कुल मिलाकर के हम सब लोग आज की इस चर्चा के अंदर एक अच्छी पहल के साथ छोटे जगहों में पहुंचें और वहां अवेयरनेस के काम करें, जिसके कारण से दुर्घटनाएं ना हो।
The WHO estimates that a whopping 1.35 million road traffic deaths occur every year. India accounts for 11% of the global burden of road traffic deaths. A knowledge paper was released during the conference, and it delved into the multifaceted dimensions of safe mobility, potential impact on society, and evolving market dynamics.
Road safety globally is getting much attention than what we have seen in the past. There is a zero vision that strategizes to eliminate all traffic casualties and grievous injuries. Today we are here to exchange ideas, share best practices, and forge new partnership and alliances towards the accomplishment of this shared vision.
Young school children from Delhi and NCR region who had taken the initiative to create road safety awareness were also given awards. These kids have offered innovative solutions to improve safety and catalyze meaningful action towards a more sustainable future. Anil Thomas for DD India from New Delhi.
You're watching DD India News Hour, and now time for all the sports updates. And here's my colleague Abhishek Mahajan. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Mark. A lot happening in sport. Paris Olympics will start from tomorrow. In fact, games have started. But yes, opening ceremony will be held tomorrow, and the stage is set for the greatest sporting extravaganza. The Summer Olympics begins on Friday. France's capital, Paris, is all ready to host the 15-day long games from July 26 to August 11. About 10,500 athletes from more than 200 countries will be participating in 329 medal events. The opening ceremony will take place along the River Seine. The first medals will be awarded on July 27th. The mascot for the Paris Olympics is Phrygian. The name is based on the traditional small Phrygian hats. It is a symbol of freedom through French history. The motto of the mascot is "Alone we go faster, but together we go further." Paris joins London as the only city to host the Olympics 3 times. The Games were held in Paris in 1900, 1924 and now in 2024, while London hosted the Games in 1908, 1948 and 2012. And India's Paris 2024 Olympic campaign begins on Thursday with Deepika Kumari and squad taking aim in the archery ranking rounds at Les Invalides. The men's archery team will take aim later on the day to decide their rankings. For the first time since London 2012, India has fielded 6 archers at the Olympics, challenging in all 5 medal events: men's team and individual, women's team and individual and mixed team. Today's ranking round will be critical to Indian archers' medal ambitions at Paris 2024. All right, we'll go across to Paris now. DD India's Narayan Singh joins us live from there. Narayan, India start their campaign today in archery, though it's a ranking round, but a big hope from the archers, Deepika Kumari and also Tarandeep, playing their 4th Olympics.
If you talk about archery, the event that we started, the ranking rounds, there are 128 archers to take part, and each archer gets 72 arrows. And right now, the latest news that is coming, Ankita Bhagat is placed at the 12th place, while Bhajan Kaur is the 20th, and Deepika is at the 30th. So it will be very important how they perform here, because later on the men's event will also take place. When the combined score will take place, in the team event, the top 4 teams who are in the top 4 will get an automatic seat to the quarterfinals, and the teams ranking 5 to 16 will get a direct entry in the pre-quarterfinals. So all important day for the Indian archer. We can say that blend of youth and mixed. We have the archers like Deepika Kumari, who has the experience of 3 Olympics, and young guns like Ankita and Bhajan Kaur. So all in all, we are hoping that, we know that in Olympics, the Indian archers hasn't performed well, but this time around things are changed. The kind of
absolutely big hopes, Deepika Kumari and Tarundeep Roy. Thank you, Narayan. Thank you for the time being. We'll keep taking updates from you. Ross Cullen is also joining us live from Paris. Ross, how's the buzz there in Paris? We have been talking about how different the opening ceremony of the Olympics will be. Tell us, how is Paris gearing up for the grand ceremony?
Well, Paris is preparing with an enormous security operation. There are some 45,000 police officers joined by soldiers. There are police helicopters in the skies constantly, also snipers on the roofs, and there are special police operatives able to shoot down any unauthorized drones flying over the city. We have seen fences and barriers and security zones also put into operation. You have to use a QR code to get inside these zones. For example, if your hotel is located inside, or if you are going to an Olympic event that is at a venue also inside the perimeter zone. So we have seen this major security operation, a real kind of lockdown of the city centre, because the Paris Olympics are not taking place in one specific area like an Olympic park. They are spread all around the city, with the opening ceremony tomorrow on the river in the centre of the capital.
Absolutely. And also, Ross, there is no chargeable ticket also. So people will be enjoying the opening ceremony there in Paris. Thank you for your views. All right, that's all we have in the world of sports. Back to you, Marklin.
Well, thanks a lot, Abhishek. And adding to the delight of tourists and locals, Italy's vintage train, also called the Italian Trans-Iberian Rail Line. It passes through the picturesque locations, including the forests of the Maiella National Park and the Abruzzo Highlands, brushing by antique hamlets and hidden hermitages. Also known as the Park Railway, it runs through one of the most panoramic rail itineraries of the country, all the while bringing good revenues to the tourism industry. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, you can get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app's available in Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Marklin. With me is Abhishek Mahajan. And from all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.